Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrif al-anbiya wal mursaleen, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een, amma ba'd, fa'awzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillah, all praises to Allah Azza wa Jal, the creator of heaven and earth and everything that exists in between, and may His everlasting peace and blessings be upon His greatest creation, our Master Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. كل نفس ذائقة الموت وإنما توفينا أجوركم يوم القيامة إن الله على كل شيء قدير. Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran, it says, Kul, O my beloved, say, Mata'u dunya qaleel, that the dunya, every single thing that exists in this world, is qaleel. It is trifle. It is small, insignificant in the eyes of Allah Azza wa Jal. And Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran al-Kareem, Allah Azza wa Jal also refers to the dunya as a place of gurur, a place of delusion, a place of deception, a place where human beings are tricked and duped and conned, a place where human beings find themselves attracted. The Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the dunya is green and lush and it's going to attract you towards it. Every soul will taste death, and you will only be given your full compensation on the day of resurrection, on the day of Hashr. And indeed Allah Azza wa Jal over all things is competent. Allah Azza wa Jal has given us life on this planet, on this earth. And the end of that life is only known to Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah Azza wa Jal knows about everyone, each and every one of us, when we're going to die. Every one of us is going to die. He knows every single person when he's going to be born, when he's going to be die. The only difference is that Allah Azza wa Jal has given us the choice, and that how we're going to wish to travel in this journey called life on this earth. So He's given us a choice how we wish to travel this journey, this life. And this is the way to understand the relationship between taqdeer and ikhtiyar, destiny and free will. Every single thing about you, Allah Azza wa Jal knows. He knows every little thing that's going to happen. And Allah's ilm, everything is known to Him. But He has left the journey up to you. All the difficulties that are going to come in your life, all the things that are going to happen in your life for the next 10 years, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, whatever is going to happen, Allah Azza wa Jal already knows. Whatever it is you're going to get in your life, what studies you're going to do, what jobs you're going to have, how many children you're going to have, what the difficulties you're going to face, you know, the successes that you're going to have, whatever failures you're going to have to face, whatever hardships you're going to have to overcome. The only question is, how are you going to travel this journey? You know, one person will travel through the journey through the path of sabr, shukr, zikr, the love of Allah Azza wa Jal. The second person will travel through this journey through shikwa, ghafla, sins, being distant from Allah Azza wa Jal. Both of their ends have been determined. But Allah Azza wa Jal has left the journey up to them. The end is already determined. You are going to die. But it is up to the person. Allah Azza wa Jalla has left the journey up to them. That's why when I find people rushing, one thing I've learned, you'll learn as you go through life, that there's no point rushing for anything. People are always rushing. You look on the road, people are rushing. I say to them, we're all going somewhere. And our destination is 6 foot under. What's the rush? What is the rush? You're forever, running around. I'm late. It's all going to. You've got to understand that death will not come at the end of life. Death will always catch you in the midst of life. You'll always be doing something. And it's never enough. Whatever you're doing, it's never enough. You're always late. Stop rushing. All your works will never be done in this world. So Allah Azza wa Jalla has left the journey up to the people. Like the example that we are traveling on a plane. All of us are going to the same place, the same destination. The end is guaranteed. It is just a question of how you want to spend the ride. You want to be a good passenger? You want to be a rowdy passenger? You want to be a happy traveler? You want to be an unhappy traveler? It's all up to you. You hear about people traveling, and some people are a nuisance to everybody else. They get drunk on the plane and swearing at everybody else and causing havoc. And other people, are helping other people, helping them to put the luggage up on the plane and being helpful, queuing up, being polite. It's all up to you. The destination is already written. It depends how you want to travel. What kind of person do you want to be? Do you want to do it with shukr and with sabr and zikr and muhabbat for Allah Azza wa Jalla? Do you want to, be whinging and complaining and doing shikwa and ghaflat and sins? It's all up to you. What does Allah Azza wa Jalla wants us to realize? What is Allah Azza wa Jalla trying to say to us? What is the end? Well, in reality, the deen of Islam, the end is not death. If the end was death, then this world would be very confusing. Would be a very confusing thing, what we call life. That's why those people who think that the end is death, they're extremely confused about their life, and they cannot resolve to the best of their philosophical abilities. And what they view as a paradox between free will and predestination. The reason it confuses them is that for them, death is the end. That's why, I had somebody the other day say to me, I will live on. I said, how? He said, I will live on in the memories of others. I said, what? What, for 10 years, 20 years, 30, 40, 50 years? I said, even then, how does that benefit you? How does that benefit you but that you live in other people's memory? It doesn't benefit you one iota. And that's where people find this life confusing. The ones that don't believe in Allah Azza wa Jal in the West and the atheists, they can't make sense of life. That you were here by chance, and then you're going to turn to dust. And that time in between, what does it mean? And that's why people want to live in the hearts of others. What benefit does that do you? You look at some of these people who go for name and fame and for glory. Look at some of the pop stars and rock stars who are idolized by millions around the world. And they die. And some of them make more money after they die than while they were alive. What good does it to them? The whole world cannot idolize them. It benefits them not one iota. It does not benefit them. You take the likes of Hitler, despised and hated by millions of people. It doesn't harm him in any shape or form. All these people hating him. If you think death is the end, life is totally meaningless. In the deen of Islam, the end is not death. The end is akhirah. The end is eternity. The end is endless life. There is actually no end. The beginning of the end is meeting with Allah Azza wa Jal. Now, if you view our life like that, the purpose of life is not to reach the end, which is the day I will die, but the purpose of life is to reach the day which I will meet Allah Azza wa Jal. Then we will have total different understanding of life. So if you think the end is going to be when you meet Allah Azza wa Jal, you view it differently. If you think the end is when you die, then it's a completely different thing. For us, the end is not when we die. The end is when we meet Allah Azza wa Jal. And that's the beginning of eternity for us. Because Allah Azza wa Jal is going to ask you and me on that day about, did you love me? Did you think of me? And He's going to ask us, how did you spend that time, that ride, that journey? How did you spend it? He's not going to ask you about the difficulties or the failures and the successes you achieved. No. Allah Azza wa Jalla is not going to say, well, how many successes you had? How many musibats or problems did you have? No. He put them there. He was there. They were just tests for you. He's going to ask you, along with the difficulties, did you still remember me? In the happy times, did you still love me? Did you still worship me? How did you spend the whole thing called human life? In a state of ignorance? In the state of heedlessness? In the state of absent-mindedness? How did you spend this journey of life? That's it. That's what in the deen of Islam came to teach us, how to spend that journey. The mu'min and the kafir both have to go through life. The only difference is how they spend that journey. That is why the shaitan and nafs, in addition to them, there are two other enemies as well. The two other things that keep us away from Allah Azza wa Jal. There's the dunya and there's the makhluk. The world and the creation. And the way the dunya and makhluk keep us away from Allah Azza wa Jal is that they make us forget how to spend the journey. They try to delude us about the end. The dunya just says, chase me, chase me, chase me. People make the dunya look so attractive. You think how all this marketing, how they advertise everything. You got catalogs, people just flick through them and drooling over them. People go window shopping and drool over them. People look at new cars, new models, new houses, glitter and gold. They want the latest things. And the dunya just wants you to chase it. So when you think the purpose of life is not to meet Allah Azza wa Jal, but you start thinking the purpose of life is to get something in the dunya, whether it's money, whether it's status, whether it's rank, whether it's distinction, whatever you want to get, if you think that becomes your purpose, you will forget the adab of the journey. When you forget that the purpose of life is to meet Allah Azza wa Jal, then other things will come up and take your passion. Some people are passionate about their jobs. Some people are passionate about their careers. People are passionate about something. Everybody wants a better job, more money, bigger house, flashier car. They are not the purpose of life. And then you become overly passionate about their jobs and their careers. Overly passionate about their family. That's why Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran that your wives and children are a test for you. In what sense are they a test? Otherwise, wives and children are a blessing for you and a bounty for you. You know, there's a slight chance that you may forget that the end is meeting with Allah Azza wa Jal and become overly passionate about them. So someone will say, you know, I take bribes for the sake of my children, for my wife. I sell stolen goods. I sell alcohol to pay the bills. I work 16 hours a day and I don't go to the masjid, don't go for Jummah, don't do this, all because of wife and children. And people do this. But you don't see the circle of life. What you do for your children, your parents did for you, and it will go on and on. People have done everything to attain this dunya and forgot the purpose of life. And Allah is the one who's giving you all these, and they're only a test. Everything in your life is a test. Now you're young, and your youth is a test. For me, my old age is a test. Your wife is going to be a test, your job is a test. Everything Allah Azza wa Jal is giving you is a test. But when people do that, that means they have exceeded, they become overly passionate and they forgot the end. So the dunya and the makhluk, this world and the creation in it, that is how they distract you. That's how you get preoccupied. You look at the people who are running, chasing after the dunya, they have no time. You know, they got to go to this meeting, you got to go to that meeting, they got to, you know, they're buying this business, they're buying that business, they have no time. So the dunya distracts you from Allah. The shaitan and the nafs don't distract you from Allah. You know, people, when they say that to people, people get quite confused. The shaitan and the nafs, it doesn't distract you from Allah Azza wa Jal. And I'm telling you that. And this is what I've learned from the mashayikh. The shaitan and the nafs do not distract you from Allah Azza wa Jal. It is the dunya, the makhluk, that distract you from Allah Azza wa Jal. And I will tell you. See, the nafs will involve you in sin. The nafs will involve you in sin and desires. But you will still feel the love of Allah Azza wa Jal. I know people who are sinners. But sinners are not bad people. I know sinners who do bad things but still read 5 times in the masjid. I know people who do bad things but they'll keep all their roses. I know bad people, when they come in and ask you for help, that they're doing everything but they can't leave these sins. They're good people. When you do a sin, it doesn't take you away from Allah Azza wa Jal. Sometimes you cry in front of Allah Azza wa Jal because of your sins when you do bad things. So the shaitan and the nafs, they do not take you away from Allah Azza wa Jal. It's the dunya and the makhluk that distract you from Allah Azza wa Jal. They're the ones who preoccupy you. See, when the nafs, when you do sin, you will still feel love for Allah Azza wa Jal. The nafs will involve you in sin, but even though you do that sin, you won't lose your yaqeen on Allah Azza wa Jal. Shaitan will put a whisper in your heart or in your mind, but you will still love Allah Azza wa Jal. So the shaitan and the nafs cannot diminish your good side, but they can increase your bad side. So the shaitan and nafs, right, they can't get rid of your good side. Your good side will be okay, even if you do sins. It's just that your bad side will increase. The makhluk and the dunya, they diminish your good side. They disconnect you from Allah Azza wa Jal. When you're lost in the dunya, the more you chase after the dunya, the more of your good side will diminish. That's why Sinners still do a lot of ibadah because they recognize, right? And they will cry in front of Allah Azza wa Jal, ask forgiveness for their sins. But people who are chasing after the dunya, right, they will not. That's why people who are in the dunya, they're so far from the deen. Now, the thing is, when we say dunya, anything can be dunya. Dunya is not the name of money in Islam. You can be extremely wealthy and have zero dunya in you. And you can be extremely poor and be completely lost in dunya. Look at some of the Sahaba Ikram. They were extremely wealthy. Extremely wealthy. They had lots of money. But they had zero dunya in them. Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani Rahmatullahi alayhi, they were extremely wealthy. They had lots and lots of money, but they had zero dunya in them. It reminds me of a time where somebody came and they were looking for Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani Rahmatullahi alayhi, and they've heard about this great saint, and they came to Baghdad Sharif looking for them. And they were asking people, where does this great sheikh live? And people kept pointing them to that, go down this street, go down there, go in that location. And eventually they came and they saw this massive big mansion. And they looked at it and thought, what kind of sheikh is this? Living in a mansion like this? It doesn't look like a sheikh to me. Anyway, they went inside and there was a big feast going on. And they're looking around, and all of a sudden they see Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani Rahmatullahi alayhi on the balcony, and their eyes meet. And the Shaykh looks at them, and the person looks at them, and they look into his heart, and they say to him, come on, let's go. They nod to him like this. So he says, he starts following them. They leave the house, he follows them. They go out in the garden, he's following them. And they're going out into the fields, and he's thinking, and they go to the edge of the town, and near the woods and the forest. And he shouts from behind, he says, Sheikh, stop, where are we going? And Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani Rahmatullahi alayhi said, well, we're going looking for Allah Azza wa Jal. That's what you wanted, isn't it? You came to me because you're looking for Allah Azza wa Jal. So we're going to look for Allah Azza wa Jal. And the person says, how long will it take? Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani says, well, it could take weeks, months, years, I don't know. But he says, in that case, please can I go back to my house, back to your house, and I've left my bag. In the olden days when people were traveling, they would have a bag at the end of a stick and they'd carry it. He said, I've left my bag there, so can I run back to the house and pick it up? They said, now tell me, who's the man of dunya? You've left a little bag, you want to run back for that. I just left the mansion, my big house. I left it because we're going looking for Allah. Now tell me, who's the person of dunya? You and me. So money is not the name of dunya. Dunya can be anything that is ghairullah, anything. When you have love for anything other than Allah, that becomes the dunya. Anything that distracts you from Allah Azza wa Jal, anything that comes in between you and Allah, that becomes dunya. For some people, their studies can be dunya. For some people, teaching can be their dunya. Anything that they love other than Allah that comes between them is dunya. For some people, even pious people, well educated, it can become dunya for them as well. If it becomes name and fame and glory, then that can be dunya for them. If it's anything other than Allah Azza wa Jal, anything that comes in a barrier between, if your love for that becomes a dunya for you. anything that is other than Allah, that distracts you from Allah, that is dunya. That is the definition of dunya in Islam. That is why Allah Azza wa Jal teaches in the Quran. We make the dua, don't we? Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana wa fil akhirati hasanatun wa qina azaban nar. Many people misunderstand this. That Allah Azza wa Jal in the Quran is saying, ask for dunya and akhirah. Ask for both of them. But ask for hasana. Allah Azza wa Jal didn't say Rabbana atina dunya. No, He said hasana. Right? Don't grant us dunya. If you ask for hasana, hasana will not distract you from us, Allah Azza wa Jal. Hasana is not dunya. That is the best of it. If you take the pure virtuous things of this world, if you take them, they will not distract you from Allah Azza wa Jal. It'll keep you firm in the deen, always thinking about the akhirah. There was a very pious woman by the name of Zubaydah Khatun. She was the wife of the Khalifa of the Ummah, Harun al-Rashid. Zubaydah Khatun was such a pious woman that she hired several hundred hafizat, several hundred women who were hafizat of the Quran, and she made 3 shifts, 3 8-hour shifts. But this was not a 3-hour, 3 shifts workforce to acquire the dunya. No, she hired hundreds of women, all hafizat of the Quran, and she would have 3 8-hour shifts. The purpose of this 3-hour shift or 3 shifts was to recite the verses of the Quran in every single corner of the royal palace. Because she wanted that anytime she walked anywhere in the palace, she'd be able to hear the Quran. This is before the speaker systems also, in them days they didn't have speaker systems. So the entire palace, their entire royal court, with all the attendants and all the staff used to live there. And every single place, she put a hafiza in every corner. So there is no space where she could not walk, no space where she could walk that she would not be able to hear the Quran. And no time of the day and no time of night when she could walk and she couldn't hear the Quran anywhere. That's how much. Now you tell me, whatever money she had, and she hired all them people, was that money for dunya? No, it wasn't. She had so much love for the Quran. Right? That has nothing to do with the thing. She had all this wealth, but she hired all this. She had so much love for the creation of Allah Azza wa Jal, that between her place where she was in Iraq and Makkah Mukarramah, when the people of that area used to travel for Hajj, on the way there was a piece of very dry desert along the way. There were absolutely no water whatsoever in that area, and many considered that the most difficult part of the journey. And just for that part of the journey, they used to take so much water with them. Even the camels would need to drink water at some point in the journey there. They themselves would do tayammum there, and they won't be able to do wudu, but they had to carry water for them, for the camels, and they had to, whatever water they had, they would need it for drinking themselves. And because of that part of the journey, it was so difficult, many people used to die. So she told her husband, the Khalifa at the time, I want you to divert the water of Tigris River and the Euphrates River over there and make a canal. So when the Hujjaj are traveling through that area, they will have access to the water to drink for themselves and water for the camels to drink and everything. Now if you think about this, this was a massive project. Right? Even by modern engineering standards, to divert a complete river to some place and make a canal go all the way up to Dingham. must have been an incredible amount of money to cost it, to make it. You know, to think about all the labor that would have had to go in, all the bricks, all the cement, all the effort. That wasn't dunya. None of that was dunya. And they did it. They made it. Right? All for compassion on creation. At the time, there was a big sheikh, you know, a wali of Allah, by the name of Balul. And he was known for two things. For one, being a wali of Allah, and the other one, you know, he was a majzoob. People thought he was a bit crazy. But looks can be deceiving sometimes. Once the Khalifa Harun al-Rashid and his wife Zubaydah Khatun, they were walking along the beach. And you've heard this story before. While walking, they saw Balul was sitting there making castles in the sand and calling out, whoever wants to buy this sand castle for 1 dinar. Whoever buys it, I will make dua for them to Allah Azza wa Jal, to bless them with a palace in Jannah. The Khalifa listened to him and laughed it off. But his wife, Zubaydah, she was a very simple and pious woman. She went up to Balul and took out 1 dinar and said to him, "Here, I will buy you a palace. Make dua to Allah Azza wa Jal that He grants me a palace in Jannah." So he took the dinar and he made dua that Allah Azza wa Jal give this pious lady a palace in Jannah. That night, the Khalifa Harun al-Rashid saw in his dream that he was in Jannah, and he sees this massive big palace, a beautiful palace in Jannah, made up of marbles and holding diamonds and pearls, incredible things. And on top of the palace, it said Zubaydah's palace. He became very happy, and he went up to the gate, and he got stopped by the guards at the gate. And he told the gatekeepers, "Look, this belongs to my wife." He says, "Yes, but she's the only one who can go in it. You're not allowed to go in it. And it's only for the person whose name's on it, who is made for, not for you." So when he woke up, he made an intention to go back to the beach, to Balul again on that day, so that he could buy a castle of him too. So in the evening, when he went to the beach again, that he found Balul there making the sand castles, the Khalifa went up to him and asked him what he was doing. Balul now said, "I'm making castles, sand castles. Whoever buys it from me will get a place in Jannah for him." So Harun Rashid then started giving him a dinar and said, "Look, hey Balul, you know, I want to buy one of you." Balul said, "Oh Harun Rashid, it's no longer costing 1 dinar now. It's going to cost you the kingdoms of the entire world." The Khalifa, he got stunned, and he says that even he was only the king of the Islamic world and not the entire world. He says, "I can't give you that much. Yesterday you was only asking me for 1 dinar. He said, "Yesterday, the price has changed now. Yesterday, you had not seen it. And now you've come and you've seen it. The price changes. It can't be the same price." Just like that, the belief in the unseen, Iman bil ghaib, in Allah Azza wa Jal. We haven't seen Allah Azza wa Jal, but we will see Him on that day. We haven't witnessed the Jalal, the Azmat of Allah Azza wa Jal, but we'll see it on that day. You haven't seen the Jamal, the Rahmat, the beauty and the mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal, but you will see it on that day. You know, what is this few amals, this trivial 80 years of life, 60 years of life? In the history of time, you are nothing but a blink of an eye. What is this fleeting life? What is this 1 dinar that Allah is asking for us? Just to do a few amals. In this, just to say, read salah, to read a bit of Quran, to keep a fast. This trivial life. Nothing. What is Allah asking us for us? Allah Azza wa Jal in return will give us endless bliss in the akhirah. Right? Will take you into a Jannah. But if you don't do it now and trying to show up on that day, Allah will ask you to bring something that you can't offer. You won't have anything. Just like Harun Rashid, Nabalul was asking him for the kingdom of the entire world. He didn't have the kingdom of the entire world. But he could have bought it for 1 dinar yesterday. In the same way, it comes in the Quran, people will beg Allah Azza wa Jal, Ya Allah, send us back. Just send us back. No, there is no going back. You have one shot. You only have one shot. We should start making use of it. We're too distracted in the dunya, too distracted by makhluk. Every day is passing by, every year is passing by. When my shop, when I first bought it, I saw mothers coming with the children, only little 6-month-old, year-old, and they used to play and things, and now they're grown up. My own children, the grown men. Time has passed by. Time will pass you by. You only have one shot. And Allah Azza wa Jalla isn't asking for much. Start making the most of your time. Imam Ghazali Rahmatullah says, time is the greatest asset you will ever have. Anything you're going to achieve is with the time. You don't have much time. The Ramadan that came, Ramadan is not just a month of fasting. Ramadan is not the month of Eid. Ramadan is not the month of just the Quran. Ramadan is the month when we connect with Allah Azza wa Jal. Ramadan is the month in which we fall in love with Allah Azza wa Jal. Ramadan is the month in which we try to fall in love and try for Allah Azza wa Jal to fall in love with us. The month of Ramadan is the month of Rahman. The Ramadan is the month of Ghufran. If in the month of Ramadan that's just gone by, if you connected, some people, they made the most of the Ramadan, they connected it with Allah Azza wa Jal all the month through. Some for a few weeks, some for a few days, some of us just for a few moments. But trying to connect with Allah Azza wa Jal. Once you feel that lazat, that love, that taste, that sweetness, the love of Allah Azza wa Jal, you will not fall for the love of the dunya. And that's what we should be doing. The only way you'll not have the love of dunya is when you have the love of Allah Azza wa Jal. Even this day and age, when people are trying to wean you off one thing, they'll wean you onto something else. To help people stop smoking, they'll say, look, chew gum instead. Do something else to replace it. So if you want the love of dunya to be out of you, connect yourself with the love of Allah Azza wa Jal. There is sweetness in the love of Allah Azza wa Jal. The awliya who stand in prayer for 4 hours in 2 rakats of nawafil, they see something, they feel something that you and I don't. When you're doing zikr, in the month of Ramadan, when you was doing Durood and Salam majlises in the morning, that pleasure you tasted in that moments in time, remember that. The times when you lifted your hands and you made dua to Allah Azza wa Jal and tears were in your eyes, remember the moments. That is the moments of lazat, and that is the connection with Allah Azza wa Jal. The dunya will try to pull you away, trying to delude you And that Allah Azza wa Jal says the dunya is ghurur. It's a place of delusion. It'll tempt you, con you. It'll try to pull you away from your purpose of life. The Ramadan that you spent and you tried, trying to reflect on it and trying to make it last for the next 11 months. Trying to keep that love going, that pleasure going. Once you really taste it, the dunya doesn't stand a chance. Make dua for me as well, that Allah Azza wa Jal keeps me on the straight, and may Allah Azza wa Jal keep you on the straight and keep you away from the dunya and the attractions of the dunya, and keep you safe from the nafs and the shaitan. Thank you for coming. May Allah Azza wa Jal reward you immensely in this world and the akhirah. And if I've said anything that inspired you, that is from Allah Azza wa Jal. If I've made mistakes, which I will always do, please forgive me. That was from me. Wa ma alayna lil balagh. Jazakallah.